When people think about Israel, they think about war, or religion, or even falafel. But to me, when I think about Israel, I think of the triumph of the human spirit. Israelis, surrounded by enemies, have turned a desert with hardly any natural resources into a flourishing, productive, and caring society. When I think about Israel, I think about a country beyond the conflict, cliches, and controversy. And that's where I want it to be. My name is Tal Ben Shahar, and although I was born and bred in Israel, I spent much of my life living and working abroad. Working in Asia, studying in the US and the UK, and touring the world playing professional squash. I received my PhD from Harvard, and after completing my studies, I went on to teach there.
Ben Shahar teaches a course at Harvard called Positive Psychology, the Science of Happiness. He began the class 4 years ago, and it became the most popular course on campus, enrolling 1,400 students.
He teaches Harvard University's most popular class, Positive Psychology. Please welcome to the show, Tal Ben Shahar. Tal? Hello, sir.
It was very exciting to know that what I was thinking about, writing about, and teaching was having an impact. My passion is teaching, and to focus on the positive things in life. In spite of all this, I decided to move back to Israel. The main reason for this move, I would say, is family. For me, Israel is all about family. My wife and I had a most wonderful childhood growing up in Israel, and we wanted our children to have that too, to be near their extended family. And when I came back, I realized that the time and distance away enabled me to see Israel in a whole new light. The Israel I came back to was not the Israel I left. I was amazed at what happened here during the 14 years I was away. The country had gone through another intifada, another war in Lebanon. The peace treaty was signed with Jordan, and Rabin was assassinated. I also noticed social problems like a housing shortage, a shrinking middle class, and a rise in poverty. The country seemed so much smaller, the soldiers so much younger. In the time I was away, tens of thousands of Ethiopians and hundreds of thousands of Russians had come to Israel. All of a sudden, I could hear so many languages spoken on the street: English, Russian, French, Amharic, Arabic, Spanish, Portuguese. And the fields where I used to play as a child are now home to some of the many high-tech companies that are all over the country. Israel had transformed. Israel had not only joined the 21st century, in many ways it was now leading the way.
When you look at the NASDAQ, companies are listed from around the world. There's one country, though, that truly stands out, and that is Israel.
Israel is the fastest growing, one of the most dynamic, entrepreneurial, and innovation-based economies on the planet.
The sky is the limit for inventors in Israel.
Israel has been a remarkable achiever in terms of technological innovation.
Israel has developed some of the world's leading technology.
Even if you don't live in Israel, chances are you have something that was made here.
If you just look at it on a daily basis, how much stuff do you use in your daily life that has its origins in Israel? It's rather remarkable.
Many of the microprocessors invented by Intel were designed in Israel.
Nowhere in the world outside of Silicon Valley will you find more technology startups.
People come from all over the world to look for Israeli technology.
Warren Buffett shelled out more than $4 billion for Iskar Metalworking, the largest purchase the legendary investor has made outside the United States.
I understand that their facilities are incredible, but I would expect that.
Intel developed here, HP as a center here, Google is very successful here, Microsoft as well as in research and development.
If you actually do the math, Microsoft is almost as much an Israeli company as we are a U.S. company.
This country has been such a beta site or a laboratory for solving both national and international problems since its inception.
Why not forget the gas altogether?
This electric car may be the answer to high gas prices. No gasoline needed.
The technology coming out of Israel is being used to connect the world, green the planet, save lives, and have fun.
Wow.
For instance, Kinect lets me use my body as the controller. This very cool technology was developed in Israel and then bought by Microsoft.
It's a workout.
I know that I looked silly, but other than that, I had a lot of fun. When Microsoft was looking for the next best thing in innovation, they turned to Israel.
Israel was able to provide the answer. They were able to provide this innovative technology that really wowed everyone at Microsoft, and they said, yes, this is going to be the next best thing, and it was. It's the fastest selling gaming device in history.
Oh, wow. A lot of innovation has come out of Israel.
In a way, Israel is known to everybody as a center of innovation, as a place where you can find more innovation than anywhere else in the world per capita.
If you look at countries that are represented in these stock exchanges, the ranking today is number 1, of course, the United States. Number 2 is China. And number 3 is Israel. The US, China, Israel. Looking at our size, how is it that Israel, with its 7 million people, has the 3rd largest group of companies traded in New York?
This is an amazing fact for a tiny country to actually eclipse all the nations of Europe in the creativity of its entrepreneurial leadership.
Time and distance had given me a new perspective, and I saw my country with fresh eyes. For years in my research, I looked for factors that lead to self-actualization, the realization of a person's full potential. Now, I was looking for something similar, only this time on the national level. Israel had transformed, and I wanted to understand how this happened. I think this is due to a number of unique characteristics, which I've come to call actualizers. Now, none of these actualizers are in and of themselves unique to Israel, but in combination, they're bringing about an almost unparalleled progress and success and contribution to the world. And the first among these actualizers is also the reason I came home: family. Family, as an actualizer, is the soil in which growth takes place. It is the foundation, the source, the origin of all else.
Israel is a very kid-oriented society. It revolves around family, and I think that's why mostly we chose to live here.
Family, not always, but often, provides us the confidence to fulfill our potential. I wrote my PhD thesis on the topic of self-confidence because everywhere I looked, I saw that a strong sense of self, a belief in one's worth as a person, was the foundation of mental and often physical health. And when I look at Israelis, one of the strengths I see most often in them is confidence.
Feeling secure on your own, that helps you grow into who you want to be and who you are.
I'm not like a little kid that's like all lost in like this whole mumble jumble of people. Like I have my place, I'm important, I can go where I want, I'm strong, I'm capable of doing things. It's a good feeling.
The reason why Israelis are generally so independent is because there is this strong foundation, the strong foundation of interdependence, of feeling cared for, of feeling held, of being protected.
The first time I was here, you know, a teenager,
and you feel that little tug on your skirt, and you look down and you see this very little human being who is asking you for a hitch across the street. They want you to hold their hand and cross the street.
And you hold their hand and they look both ways and you look both ways and you cross the street with them, and like it's normal. Everyone does it there. Israel feels like a big, like, united family.
It gives me a great sense of security knowing that other people are watching over my kids. At the same time, it can be a little intrusive. It's not unusual for a complete stranger to come up to you in the park and offer completely unsolicited advice about how you're raising your kids.
You know, your stranger on the street will tell you, oh, I think your daughter's too skinny. She needs to be eating more.
My kids ride without a helmet and they'll be stopped right away and say, where's your helmet? They'll first scream at my child and then scream at me, but they're right and they care.
I once went to the beach and like I was with my little sister and there was no suntan lotion around and everything, and like another mother came over and she was like, how dare you like not put suntan lotion on your kids? And like everyone takes care of each other in a certain way. It's for the good and for the bad.
I get more parenting advice in one day here than I did in all my years in the United States combined. But overall, the effect of it is positive, because it's this warmth, caring, and togetherness that breeds healthy interdependence, healthy independence, healthy self-esteem. The resulting self-confidence manifests itself in resilience, which is the ability to bounce back from adversity, turning it into advantage. One of the most significant characteristics or actualizers of great leaders is their ability to bounce back from crucibles. What are crucibles? These are extremely harsh experiences that test people, pushing them to their limits and beyond. We all experience crucibles. It could be a loss of a loved one or a major professional setback. But what distinguishes great leaders is that they are able to withstand them. Even if they are knocked down, they bounce back up, stronger than before. Israelis are no stranger to these extreme adversities. In the 1800s, there were waves of immigration from Russia, Yemen, and elsewhere in the diaspora.
Jews have lived in Israel since the beginning of time. Jews have never left. They've been chased out. They were chased out many, many times, but they've always returned.
They came to a largely barren and inhospitable land, lacking natural resources and infrastructure. My own grandparents, in fact, immigrated here in the 1930s.
הוא ראה שהיטלר יבוא לאוסטריה ואז יהיה רע מאוד. אנחנו ידענו את התוכנית של היטלר. אז הוא אמר, מוכרחים לברוח מפה. רצו כבר מקום איפה שאפשר לחיות בשביל היהודים. אז רצינו לבוא להנה. כשבאתי ארצה, היה עוני גדול מאוד. הרבה אנשים הסתובבו בלי עבודה.
Things became even more complicated after the state was founded.
When independence was declared by Ben-Gurion in May 1948, there were 5 Arab armies which attacked, and the attacks began within hours.
Thousands of Jews fought to defend the land, and then they continued to settle it. One of the main reasons behind the Israelis' ability to lead in innovation, to bring about progress, is their resilience in the face of crucibles like these.
How do you create an economy when you don't have natural resources? You can either sit, cry, and die, or you can decide that you are taking the knowledge and you build very strong teams that are problem solvers.
Necessity is the mother of invention. You know, when you look around, you got sand all over the place, and you've got no oil, and you've got no natural resources. I mean, you gotta start becoming creative. So they all get together and they invent things, and I think that that's how we've lived all our history.
It's kind of an incentive for guys like me to go out and innovate and start companies and being entrepreneurs. So I think it's kind of a pusher.
It forces you to be more efficient, and it forces you to think outside of the box.
The old pioneers were building kibbutzim and were drying swamps. We are the new pioneers in Israel. We are building some of the newest concepts out of Israel that we think could change and be relevant for the world, but also change the dynamic within Israeli society.
This is a nation of people who have fought adversities and know how to deal with them.
An aspect of adversity that almost every Israeli experiences, first or second hand, is immigration.
For its size and population, Israel has an immigration ratio that is outsized to any other country.
Being an immigrant and giving up so much to come here is in and of itself a crucible. A person needs to find a place to live, find a job, learn a new language, adjust to a new culture. It's enormously challenging, but in the end, the country and its people have come out stronger.
Countries of immigration usually are the ones that are most successful. The US in general is a country of immigration. The same way Israel is a country of immigration. We have lots of immigrants, lots of dynamics, lots of conflicts.
Israel is a global country because it embraces so many different other cultures and so many other different kinds of people.
If you look at most creative societies around the world, West Coast, East Coast, other parts, usually they are driven by people who are immigrants. They come from different places. They don't necessarily have something to lose. And Israel is like a melting pot of ideas from around the world.
Yemenite, Russian, secular, religious, male, female, they've all contributed in major ways to the benefit of the society. From teachers to prime ministers, like Golda Meir, people who came here and transformed this country.
And look what happened. People that came from countries that had absolutely nothing to do with agriculture. They never put a seed in the soil. They never planted a tree. And they're feeding Europe.
בנו ממש עם הידיים על הכביש. אפילו נשים עשו כבישים. היה מדבר פה.
I know I live in this fantasy. If I had stayed in Sydney, Australia, who would I have been and what would I have been? But Israel is innovative because you don't have people just living here and saying, well, I'm here because this is where I come from. People really choose to be here, and when you make a choice, you make an investment. And you pay a price, but it feels worthy, it feels meaningful.
The resilience of Israelis to withstand, to bounce back even stronger from these adversities, has also helped generate incredible innovation that is helping address some of the world's most challenging problems. You can find this phenomenon of turning adversity into advantage literally everywhere. I mean, take today, for example, scorching hot, almost 100 degrees, the sun feels like it's on top of you. But instead of running away from this adversity, from this heat, what do Israelis do? They take it, turn it around, use it to their advantage. Just look around you. You see solar heating panels everywhere. Over 90% of Israeli homes use solar heating. And this is not a new phenomenon that came with the Green Revolution. This has been around for a long time, since the 1950s. And Israel has another major problem. Much of the country is a desert.
We were living here in the middle of the desert. We really had no choice. We had to come with something in order to farm in this area.
If you look at just about every Israeli home, school, park, or farm, you'll notice something interesting. An innovative idea that makes the most of Israel's very limited water supply: drip irrigation.
People think that this is just a plain hose with a hole in it. This is not the case. Behind each hole, there's this very sophisticated dripper that is pressure compensated, that is self-cleaning, that has filters in it. There's a lot of technology and research and development and innovation, so it's certainly not just a hole in a pipe.
With drip irrigation, farmers can grow 40% more crops by using only half the regular amount of water. This has enabled Israelis to go from surviving in a desert to thriving as a leading exporter of fresh fruit and vegetables all around the world. And to think, it all started almost by accident. In the 1930s, an engineer named Simcha Blas noticed a row of trees where one of them was larger and greener than the rest. He saw a pipe with a small leak and realized these tiny drops of water were all that the tree needed to flourish. Shortly after, he teamed up with the farmers from Kibbutz Chatzerim to develop the Netafim drip irrigation system, which would revolutionize the farming industry in Israel and around the world.
I mean, when we felt that we had something good in our hand, it was clear that this is going to help farmers in Australia, in South Africa, in Ethiopia, in India. It is something good for the world, not just for ourselves.
નેટાબીમ પદ્ધતિને કારણે ફર્ટિલાઇઝર ઓછું, લેબર ઓછું, પાણી ઓછું, વીજળી ઓછું અને આ બધા કારણોને લીધે મને ઇન્કમમાં વધારો મળે છે અને ડબલ મળે છે.
You know, when I travel and I see our irrigation systems in remote places, and I see how it helps people to grow more with less, I'm very proud of it.
Resilience in Israelis manifests itself in another way. It's an actualizer we call chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
Chutzpah. Chutzpah. What is it, a chutzpah?
It's very hard to translate the word chutzpah, even though it's associated very much, especially with Israelis.
Whether it's in the bustling marketplace or in the corporate environment, you'll find Israelis to be, well, Israeli.
You know, they're very direct. You know, they're very confrontational.
Chutzpah, you say chutzpah, something rude.
You know, I tell everybody that we have traffic lights with 3 colors, red, beep beep, and green. I mean, it's all about beep beep, beep beep.
Driving in Israel is a nightmare. Almost every car in Israel on the back has a sticker that says Shmor Merchak, keep your distance. And yet no one does it. Not those people who have the stickers on or others. You know, when they drive, it's almost like driving a train. They're stuck to your back. But you know, if I could help it, I would not be on the road ever. I think we should go back to camels, a lot safer.
Chutzpah can have negative connotations, but for the purpose of our conversation, I will look at the positive connotation.
Chutzpah is about not taking no for an answer. It's about challenging the status quo. It's about being straight, direct, sometimes at the expense of being diplomatic.
Chutzpah is being able to actually get a yes where everybody says no, to open doors.
So for people that don't know what chutzpah is, when an entrepreneur knocks on your door and offers something, and if you throw him out the door, he comes out through the window, that is associated with with using chutzpah to get things done.
And I can tell you, Hatzalah, United Hatzalah, started many years ago with the chutzpah. Our mission is really a very simple mission, is just saving people's lives. We had an ambulance service in Israel. Well, it wasn't good enough, but no one had the chutzpah of saying that. We came to them and said, you better give us your emergency calls because we have manpower who are willing to help you as volunteers. And they would reach the scene right away. Well, they said, no, we're not interested, thank you. So, well, what we did is chutzpah. We took scanners and we used to scan into their emergency calls. And if something happened in our area, we used to send a volunteer and go to that home, someone's having a heart attack, go save that person's life. And then when the ambulance came 20 minutes later, they said, what are these guys doing here? Slowly they saw these guys are good guys. We want to work with them. And that's how we got to work with many ambulance companies in Israel. When we went ahead and we did this without their permission, but we did it for the sake of saving lives, that is chutzpah.
If somebody else thinks that there's no way to do it, the Israelis will say we can do it.
Another great example of chutzpah in action is a man by the name of Amit Gopher. He was paralyzed after a car accident in 1997.
Got myself injured, and I was wondering how come wheelchair is the only solution.
At any given time, over 100 million people are confined to wheelchairs. And although wheelchairs have become more sophisticated, they've really been the only option. Amit Gopher has the chutzpah to believe that he can change all that.
The initial idea was to make a device that will enable people to function from morning to night without the need of using wheelchair.
From medical myths to medical marvels, we head to Jerusalem to meet a paraplegic who's walking tall. It's a breakthrough you're going to have to see for yourself.
Witnessing a miracle. The man you see standing up, walking, even climbing stairs, has been paralyzed for more than 20 years.
And never I think about I walk. Only the dream I walk.
It's called a rewalk. Some guy in Israel invented it.
It is a dramatic change of life. Something really revolution for the person.
What was it like for you when you got up on this and were able to stand and walk for the first time?
It was awesome. I almost can't believe it. I can't believe I'm doing this thing.
Well, we can't believe the technology.
Shifting the person from wheelchair user status to crutch user status is something, is the whole world for the person.
My life is changed. For me, it's my life change.
What makes the story even more amazing is that Amit himself is unable to use his own invention. This is because the rewalk requires the use of one's arms and upper body, and Amit's accident left him a quadriplegic.
I cannot really bring myself to think about that, so occupied with building the device and proving it. When I see the impact of the device on a person, it gives me great pleasure.
Oh, it's the greatest thing. Cruising down the hallway. Oh, it's awesome. It's like it's been the best thing since the accident.
There is research showing that many people turn down learning opportunities because they're not confident enough to admit their ignorance. A confident person is not afraid to think critically, ask questions, and be open to multiple answers. This is in essence the Jewish approach to learning, and it's part of how we branch out into the world.
This is a questioning religion because from the question comes the journey into understanding.
This is part of the Israeli culture's DNA. And you see it in the boardrooms of a high-tech company, just as you saw it 3,000 years ago.
Thousands of years ago, when knowing to read and write was a very rare phenomenon, every Jewish child knew how to read.
No people put education so much at the top of their priorities. No people survived so many adversities and came out of them not merely surviving, but renewed in strength.
Which is why, when the Jews returned to Israel, they made it their highest priority to build places of learning.
Not only yeshivot, the schools of Jewish studies, but also what would become world-renowned centers of higher learning, like the Weizmann Institute and the Technion. In fact, many of these great institutions were built even before the establishment of the state. Regardless of whether religious or secular, what they have in common is the unwavering commitment to critical thinking and ceaseless questioning.
Sometimes when I walk into a class or when I'm lecturing, I take a step back and take a bird's eye view, and I almost feel like I go back thousands of years to the original places of learning in the Jewish tradition, where there was a lot of noise, where there was a lot of challenge, where there was a lot of conflict, disagreements.
Well, you know, the Jewish process is very much a dialectic process, because the process of studying something means that you're sitting around an idea or around a text, and everybody's equal in the room, the rabbi and the last student.
There is constant questioning, constantly challenging the ideas. It's this challenging, it's this questioning that drives innovation, that drives ideas.
You don't compete with your neighbor, not at all. You discuss things, you compete with yourself.
And that process of a dialectic creative process, I think, was responsible for a lot of the disciplines of thought of the late 19th and the 20th century. Psychoanalysis, relativity, the biggest economic theories, and so on and so forth.
And it's this way of learning that's the antecedent of innovation. And we see it in Israelis of all ages, whether they are poring over ancient texts, working in the lab, or learning in the classroom. The modern school as we know it starts around 200 years ago. And 200 years later, the system hasn't really changed. A company called Time to Know is trying to change all that. A key aspect of Time to Know is helping students critically explore and understand the ideas they are learning.
What we are putting an emphasis is on what's called 21st century skills. Those are problem-solving type issues, the ability to think and the ability to absorb data and to cipher data in a way that is much more relevant to today's adults.
In some ways, this is a traditional way of learning, but adapted to the needs of a very diverse modern public classroom.
Just having the computer is not the right solution. Time to Know enables kids from different backgrounds and different levels, and kids that have different ways of learning, different modalities, all to sit in one classroom.
And the idea is catching on.
We're actually running the program in about 35 schools here in Israel and 30 schools in the US, both in New York and Texas.
A new education program called Time to Know was chosen to be implemented in more than 20 elementary schools.
I like the characters, and they teach you lots of stuff about what you're learning.
The vocabulary has just risen tremendously. Also, I've noticed that their math skills have gotten better, they're sharper. I think it's a great way for the kids to learn.
The kids really love it.
זה הרבה יותר מלמד, אותי זה מלמד יותר טוב. כאילו, אתה לא רוצה לצאת להפסקה ואתה רוצה להישאר בשיעור.
I think all school children are like this because this system will make them want to learn. Actually, that's really is rare about children that actually want to learn.
But learning is not enough. Israelis want to see this learning brought to life. I'm dedicating my life to ideas, to thinking, to teaching, to writing, and yet for me, an idea has no value if it cannot be realized, if it cannot be put into action. Nowhere have I seen a place where the people are so dedicated to taking an idea and turning it into action as in Israel. A good example is one of my postgrad students, Malet Abuni. Malet, with the help of others, began a project in her native Ethiopia to help people there lead happier and more meaningful lives.
One of my dreams is bringing the psychology to Africa, to Ethiopia, and then making a kind of combination of Western psychology with local psychology which exists already in those places, and to make a combination that can be useful and very, very meaningful for them.
I've been teaching positive psychology and organizational behavior for 20 years. Never have I encountered such high levels of proactivity as I have with my Israeli students. It's almost like there isn't a barrier between theory and practice. They take an idea and they run with it, they fly with it.
Israeli students are more proactive because of the kind of life we live in Israel. It's a different kind of reality than in the United States.
It's maybe that we Israeli, that we have, a lot of, I don't know, okay, let's say it's a challenge, not problem, challenge, that we should produce solution for them. And we don't really have time, to hold and waiting until something will happen from the other place.
Israelis are known for getting things done, even when they have the most audacious of ideas. Take, for instance, a company like Better Place. Right now, they're working to make Israel the first country in the world to run its transportation system without oil. I went with my son David to their visitor center in Herzliya. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about, and also to test drive their new electric car myself. I can't hear the engine, it's like floating. I've never been in a faster car than this. It accelerates like a race car. Unbelievable. All this is the brainchild of Shai Agassi, who was able to take his ideas and turn them into reality.
So how would you run a whole country without oil? That's the question that sort of hit me in the middle of a Davos afternoon about 4 years ago.
In 2005, Shai attended an international conference for young entrepreneurs. It was at this conference in Davos that he was asked a question that would change his life forever.
We all faced a question that really caused us all to evaluate our life. And it was, what are you going to do to make the world a better place by 2020? Most people realized it was a conversational starter. I actually took it a bit too serious. And I came up with this crazy idea that if we could actually solve a big technological problem, and we get the entire world off oil.
Shai's concern was that oil is not only a major cause of political and economic instability on a global scale, it is also choking our environment. Although the electric car is touted as a clear solution to get us off oil, not even the biggest car companies in the world have been able to successfully crack the right mix of business and technology to make it a viable alternative to gasoline. That is, until now. Shai's big idea was to create the right kind of network and infrastructure that would allow any given country to switch to electric vehicles. He went around to all the major players in the industry to try to get support for his ideas. But most people just thought he was crazy.
When you tell people, I think I have a way to end oil, most people look at you and sort of go, yeah, no, that's nice. And I think the reactions that I got from a lot of world leaders was sort of a pat on the back. It's good that the young generation is thinking about these problems. But there were very few real leaders who came up and said, this could be big.
The current president of Israel, Shimon Peres, got a hold of Shai's white paper that he had drafted, read it, and instantly became a supporter and involved.
People are so much afraid of new things. They take what the danger, what the change. It's nonsense. The world is moving ahead, and we would like to be among the people who move ahead in the positive sense.
Shai was so committed to the idea of ridding the world of its dependence on oil that he left the top-ranking position at one of the biggest software companies in the world to make it happen.
I was running to be the CEO of a large software company called SAP, and then Paris said, well, once you run this project, and I said, well, I'm ready for CEO, and he said, well, no. You got to explain to me what is more important than saving your country and saving the world that you would go and do, and I had to quit and come do this thing called better place.
So what exactly was Shai's big idea?
Step 1. Convince the world's car companies to manufacture electric cars that have removable batteries. Step 2. Convince governments to install millions of charging outlets. And step 3. When people want to make a longer drive and there's no time to recharge the battery, just build a nationwide network of battery swapping stations.
As absurd as it sounds, that's exactly what Shai and Better Place have done.
What really started as a single idea right here at Davos 5 years ago, he's making it a reality right now. Shai Agassi.
This is just a pipe dream, right? This isn't. We've been talking about electric cars for a long time. Is this actually going to happen anyplace?
It's happening in Israel, in Denmark, and in Australia, and in Hawaii, in the San Francisco Bay Area.
But not in America yet.
It's the People's Republic of Berkeley will probably go first.
Okay.
What we want to do is create 250,000 stations or points of contact for electric charging. We want to be the epicenter in the world of electric vehicle technology. This is the future.
We converted the paper into reality. We did it all in Israel. I don't think most people understand, but we got about 1,000 engineers working in Israel on this project. I think Israel's become the ground zero of the change, and it defines Israel.
We all have great ideas, but I think one of the primary reasons why many of us don't take the steps to make our dreams a reality is the fear of failure. What if I blow it? What if I get it all wrong? Well, here in Israel, we have a bit of a different attitude toward risk and failure. To act means to put ourselves, our ideas, our thoughts, our values on the line. It means necessarily, inevitably, failing more. And to be prepared to fail means that we need high levels of self-confidence, confidence in our ability to bounce back, and confidence in our ability to learn and grow from our failures.
Now, one of my personal mantras is learn to fail or fail to learn.
We learn to walk by falling down, to draw a circle by scribbling, to shoot a basket by missing many times. There is often no other way to learn. Israelis practice this mantra day in and day out.
In certain countries, failure means you're finished. It's an enormous embarrassment. You know, God forbid, a cause for suicide or other things like that. That doesn't happen here, right? We accept failure, we learn from mistakes.
When they fail, they see their failure not as a stumbling block, but as a stepping stone toward the next project, toward the next application. It's a remarkable process.
This is a country of trial and error, and we get it wrong. We get it wrong a lot. I think we get it right a lot, and the real journey is that you get back up, and I think that's what you see the Israelis do time and time again.
And this explains much of the innovation and development coming out of Israel, resulting in ideas and products that are solving some of the most important issues facing our planet today.
There are few places in the world that are as impactful on the overall well-being of the planet than Israel.
From their earliest writings and activities, the Zionists had a very high agenda, very ethically motivated, and they wanted Israel to become a light unto the nations. They didn't want it to be just another national state with national identity and borders.
And this, I think, is the final actualizer of Israeli society that we need to discuss. It's an imperative known as tikkun olam, and it literally means to repair the world.
So we see an ambulance ahead. What's interesting here is that most of the emergency services actually rely on volunteers. Many of them are 16, 17-year-old teenagers.
I volunteer for MADA. It stands for Magen David Adom. It's the Israeli ambulance service. It's very common for kids my age to volunteer in anything, if it's MADA or anything else. In my class, we're like 25 girls, I guess, out of that 19 volunteer in something.
Tikkun Olam is about doing whatever we can to help wherever we can. From an early age, Israelis are taught to take responsibility not only for themselves, but also for others.
Volunteering basically starts when you're a teenager, but I think that everyone, once you start volunteering, you keep on doing it for the rest of your life. When you're adults, you just always want to carry on giving.
Yeah, we were raised with the fact that you have to help, you have to give something back to your community. Like, that's what we do.
But Tikkun Olam is not just about taking care of our own community. It is about helping the world by striving to exemplify and promote goodness wherever we can.
Okay. My name is Pearl. I'm from Ghana. My child was sick, and I learned she had a hole in heart, so that was brought here, and my baby now has a surgery, and she's doing well. Yeah.
The imperative of Tikkun Olam means reaching out to help those in need, wherever they are. There are countless organizations in Israel dedicated to the value of Tikkun Olam, one of which is Save a Child's Heart.
These children look happy, healthy, and active, but just weeks ago, each one of them faced death. They needed open-heart surgery, and they got it through Save a Child's Heart in Israel.
Since 1995, Save a Child's Heart has performed thousands of life-saving surgeries free of charge on children from North America, the Middle East, China, Indonesia, and elsewhere.
I'm here to surgery for my son, all free in here, even eating, everything in here, they give me all free.
We don't care about your color, we don't care about your religion, we don't care about your financial status. If you need our help, we are here to do that.
At least half of all surgeries have been performed on Palestinian children.
Shukran.
I don't know how they do it here, but I'm happy they do it. Yeah.
And sometimes Tikkun Olam takes Israelis to far-off places.
A major earthquake shook the Caribbean nation of Haiti late today. It hit just 14 miles from the capital city, Port-au-Prince.
When the earthquake hit Haiti, we came together and everybody said, we have to do something there. We have to be involved. We have to be there. And we were almost the first ones there.
Within 48 hours, 2 747s arrived in Port-au-Prince from Israel, here to create the best field medicine available.
We heard sounds of people shouting, crying, searching for relatives, searching for food, searching for help.
We saw the children, we saw the families. Their situation are very bad.
Between those 2 weeks, we treated 1,111 patients. About 1/3 of them were children.
Israel's Haiti Field Hospital's maternity ward saw its first birth Sunday night. The mother was so thankful, she named the baby Israel.
A catastrophic tsunami rising out of the Pacific. Its huge waves sweeping away everything in its path.
Israel sent teams to Japan even after the radiation danger was already known.
People understand that this is something important, this is something which is holy, something that you pure, it was understood.
This country has become a country with all its imperfections that sees as part of its purpose looking out for other people.
I think it's in our genes.
The Bible says so. The Torah, the Jewish tradition talks about guiding and helping others.
That's the Jewish DNA. That's Israeli hardwiring. Also, religious or secular makes no difference.
this idea of tikkun olam, making the world a better place, not only for Jews, but for the whole world, whether it's by curing diseases, whether it's by making high-tech gadgets. That's part of our mission.
I want to do something good, and not just for myself, but I wanted to do something good for Israel, for the society, and you know, it feels strange, but I think that it's also for the world.
I mean, don't use whatever you have only for you. Bring it to the other people. That's tikkun olam for me.
There has to be a higher purpose, a higher reason for us to be here. And there's no doubt in my mind that Israel has to play a role in making the world a better place.
We care about people, not only about ourselves, we also care about people around the world.
Israel takes very seriously the biblical demand, v'charta b'chayim, choose life, choose life. Israel chooses life.
And we always help. It's not unique to Israel, but it's very strong in Israel.
You know, we're far from perfect, but we're in the game, okay? We're in there fighting and helping and trying, and we're creating cures for cancer, and we're creating new, you know, cool technology, and we're trying to feed the world. We're trying to solve dependence on oil. It really goes to the heart of what being an Israeli is about.
In the Bible, it says, Ki ha'adam etz hasadeh, which means that a human being is like a tree in the field. We can look at the actualizers in the same way. Family is the soil, providing sustenance, nourishment for growth. Roots provide the resilience, the strength that is necessary for overcoming adversity. Chutzpah is the trunk emerging from the ground, making itself known in the world. We branch out through learning and constantly asking questions. And the fruits and the flowers are the ideas that we put into action. The result is tikkun olam, fixing the world, because we're not content with our trees alone. These actualizers have not only made Israel what it is, they also have the potential to help us all, wherever we are, whomever we are, enjoy happier, more successful, more productive lives. Through them, we can contribute, we can make a difference, we can make the world a better place. This is what Israel is all about. And to be back here, to be able to share it all with my family, this is what life is all about.